wondering, how do you, these are kind of new owners we're talking about, but what about your legacy owners? What about owners that have been with you for years, before Airbnb was as prolific, before there was regulation, before the expectation of guests became more hotel-like and not I'm renting somebody's home-like? How have you kept your owners in alignment with the industry changes and your business changes?
Yeah,
Well,
so
I guess
go ahead,
go
Kevin.
ahead, Ben. No, okay. You know what I do, maybe a little different than some of my local and national competitors, is one, I do a quarterly market paper for our owners that I talk about, what's going on, what's happened in the last quarter, what we're anticipating happening in the next quarter. And it keeps them up to speed with not just trends in the industry, but perhaps trends in property types, property quality, amenities. If you haven't, I do use key data quite a bit, in fact, daily in what I do. And if those of you listening don't subscribe to key data, I would heartily want you to do that, because I can give owners these market reports, and then so they're kept up to date on a quarterly basis, so they aren't ever left in the lurch or on an island by themselves, not knowing what's going on. And then, of course, I always use my pat line that, past history is no guarantee of future performance.
I love that.
STRs are an investment. All investments have risk. They may not have market correlated style risk, but they all have risk. They've got regulatory risk. They've got supply demand risk. They've got, different types of risk, perhaps, your traditional market investments, but letting owners know that these are not guaranteed investments, that things happen, and setting that example, not just in the beginning, but ongoing, tends to help me a lot with working with our legacy owners.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Getting kind of ahead of that, so they're not asking you why they're making less money or something. Yeah. Anyone else have a way that they maintain?
Yeah, I think it sums it up pretty well. I think the key to a successful owner relationship is proactive communication and consistently performing, your role as a partner. The consistency ultimately creates trust, and trust is what you're trying to build. And so, understanding your homeowner is paramount. We classify owners into three separate categories, so we know how to speak with that particular owner, and that's really determined at the onset of a relationship. And so, um, going to a homeowner that doesn't want sneakers on their carpet unless you hit $2,500 a night with some cut rate price is just bad business, right? You're not hearing or listening rather to your homeowner. So we really try to nose in on the relationship, creating that consistency, which in turn creates trust.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think part of that proactive communication is proactively communicating issues within their own property, things that you see happening, a trend that's going on before they either feel the effect of a revenue decrease or they arrive to their property and, find things not as they expected them to be. So not being afraid to have those conversations either. Laura, you have quite a few legacy homeowners. How have you dealt with the changes with them?
We do. And I'll say when it comes to change, like slow as you can possibly roll it out, the better. And that's really the strategy that we've used in the past. When we went in our market, we're a very traditional market, a lot of 7-night stays. We were one of the first companies to open things up to that we call them any day stays. So, 3 nights, 4 nights, partial weeks. So, and doing that, like we started talking about it and sending it was in all of our communications to our owners. Something about short stays was in everything. And then we started out with like 12 owners agreeing to let us rent their house for shorter stays. And then we were able to build some case studies and show the owners the data. And so that's when it comes to like building trust and establishing relationships, a lot of times sticking to the facts, right? And providing your evidence up front just strengthens your argument and shows them that you know what you're talking about, that you're an authority on the material that they're looking at, and that it does a lot for your trust. So.
And
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
follow up on this, another thing that we found helpful and we're trying to implement, although it's a little bit of a slow burn, is, like you're always told, have an annual review with your insurance agent, have an annual review with your investment advisor. We want to have an annual review with all of our owners over the phone and talk about, have their goals changed, have their lives changed, and things like that, because owning this is not a static investment, right? This is a living and breathing, it has a lot of dynamics involved. And when, family issues change or investors change or anything else changes, having those one-on-one annual reviews with the owner to make sure that you're still aligned with what each party is trying to do. And that's something that we're trying to do. It's kind of a slow burn because it's new. It's something that we haven't done before to that level, but it's something that we're excited to do.